Hey guys, my decluttering journey continues. I'm on to my kitchen today. So I started the year decluttering my entire house. I started with my front entrance, moved on to my living room, and today I'm going to be working in the kitchen. I'm trying to just hit all of the areas that are really visible when you come into my house. So today I'm going through all of my cabinets. Even though they're not visible to everyone who comes in, they're visible to me. And so I'm going to get this kitchen just functioning a little more effectively. Some of the drawers are getting a little tight. Cabinets are getting hard to push things into. So I just want to make it easier to do what I need to do in my kitchen. Okay, so my plan is to just go through each of my cabinets and drawers, working my way around the room and pull everything out, wipe it down, and put back what actually is supposed to be in there and what fits, because I don't want it to be too tight that it makes it hard for things to go back. That just makes it difficult to keep things working properly. And so I only want to have what we need in here. Some of these drawers and cabinets, they're getting a little bit tight. And when everything's in them, they just don't function well. And so I want to hopefully get rid of a few things to make the kitchen function a little more effectively. This is a lot of water bottles, and this is all the water bottles we don't even use. You think that I could get rid of some of these, but actually I'm not getting rid of any of them because they are this chug spout from Contigo. Costco sold them for a little while, and most of the people in my family love them, and I can't find them anywhere anymore. And so we just have a stockpile of them because if any of ours break, we want to have backups. And so they're not very good to store up in the cabinet that they were in. I'm going to move them to a different place in the kitchen, but I'm not getting rid of any of these. This top shelf holds things that we don't need to access very often. I am way too short to reach these shelves. Even the third shelf is kind of a little out of my reach. So definitely the top shelf is not accessible for me. And so I just store things here that I don't want to get rid of, but that I don't need very often. The plastic kids' plates, cups, and bowls pretty much just get used when we have people over. And so those go in the third shelf. From the first cabinet, I have one cup to get rid of. It's not much, but it's something, and it'll make that cup shelf in that cabinet a little easier to get stuff in and out of. So the next stop is this cabinet right here above the espresso machine. This is where we keep all of our mugs, all of our coffee, and coffee-related supplies. So I recently relocated. We used to have glasses in this cabinet, and I moved them to the previous cupboard where the plates are. And I moved all of our mugs into this cupboard so that everything coffee-related is within close proximity to the coffee maker. And so I don't think I'm going to find much in here either, but it could probably use a tidying and a clean out, and maybe I'll find a few mugs that are hiding in the corners that don't need to be here. You might be able to tell we take coffee pretty seriously around here. Anytime we travel somewhere, we like to make a stop at Starbucks, not for coffee, because their coffee is really not very good, but for a mug. So that's why we had so many of these. I haven't been to all these places, but Clay has, apart from Sao Paulo. We have family that lives there, so that's why we have that one. So what do I have to show for going through that cabinet? An empty coffee bag and one Go cup. I know it's not a lot, but this is what happens when you regularly stay on top of your stuff. There's not that much stuff that actually needs to go. It's just nice to pull it all out, do a reset, get reacquainted with what's in here. Is it organized in a way that I like? And then move on. And it really doesn't take that much time. I'm moving on to my drawer that has towels and dishcloths. Now this is a little bit tight, and I know that there's towels in here that I don't like, that I don't use. So I'm gonna take what I can, take everything out of here, and then I'll see what I can get rid of. These Swedish dishcloths, I want to like them, but I just don't. So I think I'm going to get rid of them. These are microfiber kitchen cloths and towels. I do like using them every now and then, so I'll hang on to these. They are going to go to the back. Now, these are my favorite kitchen towels. They're just flour sack towels. And if you love Napoleon Dynamite as much as we do, you'll get this. But this is definitely my go-to style of towel. I find they're really absorbent, and if they get really dirty, I can bleach them. They're just really easy to care for. Second to that would be these IKEA cloths or IKEA towels. Now, their towels are hit and miss. I have another pack that I got from there that I don't love at all. The absorbency is really bad on the fabric, so really it just depends. But this black and white check pattern I really like. They're really great towels. So I'm going to keep those. This towel has been around since Clay and I got married, and I think it's time to go. I'm just going to get rid of all of those. This is all going. There. There's actually room for stuff in here. This lower cabinet is really hard to keep tidy. Now I'm going to pull everything out, and I know that there's a lot of stuff in here that needs to go in the recycling. So let's just see what we've got. Don't mind me while I crawl inside my cabinet. When my oldest boys were really little, they made a comment one time about how Mommy's a jar collector, like it was the coolest thing about me. It's actually, I hope, not the coolest thing about me, but I do tend to save jars because they might be useful, but then they just kind of end up being a big pile shoved into the back of a cabinet, so it's time to get rid of some. Yeah, that's precarious. Okay. These Corningware serving dishes, I use so infrequently, but they're so good to have at Christmas, and so I just shove them to the back. I don't need to access this stuff often. So it's good to know that I have it when I need it, but it's not in my way when I don't need it. What else? We don't currently need a bib for anybody, thankfully, and hopefully we won't for a very long time. But I'm going to keep this in case somebody with a little one who needs a bib comes over for a visit, and at least we have one if they don't. And you may be wondering, why does she have empty, disposable Tim Hortons cold cups? I really like drinking stuff from disposable containers. So, you know, if you make up a blended coffee drink, it just tastes better. When it's out of a plastic cup, it's like I went and got myself a treat, but I didn't have to pay for it because I made it at home. However, I didn't use these, so I'm going to throw them away. But if you wondered, why do I have paper hot cups in my coffee cabinet? That's why. my discard pile continues to grow. Welcome to Under My Sink. I feel like you might get to know me a lot better after this. These garbage bags are horrendous to get apart, but I keep buying them because they're so cheap. Because the grocery store won't give me garbage bags with my groceries anymore. I have to buy garbage bags, but they're so hard to get apart. Come on. I think I'm in. The compost bucket clearly needs to go out. This is my kitchen laundry hamper. So anytime we have dirty dishcloths and towels, they go in here. First they hang on the side to dry, and then when they're dry they get thrown in. That way I can do a load of towels easily, apart from the microfiber ones. I don't normally throw them in there. When Clay and I were newly married, we had a mouse situation in our house, and they were coming into our kitchen through this little hole for the plumbing under the kitchen sink. And every time I wipe under the sink, from that time onward, I always have a bit of heebie-jeebies because I'm scared of mice coming out of that hole. I keep this juice bottle for watering plants. I find it easier to water plants with this, and it doesn't take up much space, unlike those gigantic watering cans that are so trendy right now, and they look so pretty in home decor photos, but I don't want a watering can cluttering up my house. Just keep a jug under the kitchen sink. And this big box is my dish soap. So when my bottle gets empty, I just refill it from this spout. It makes my life so much easier to not always have to be thinking, do I have dish soap? Oh, I'm getting low on dish soap. Gotta pick up some dish soap when I'm at the store. I just keep a giant bulk box under my sink and I don't have to think about it for months. I'm going to put those water bottles away in the cabinet above my fridge, and I'm not pulling everything out of this because there's really nothing that I need to get rid of in here. I decluttered it pretty recently, and it's got some empty space, so the water bottles are going to go there, and then I'm done in this cabinet. I'm on to the dreaded above the microwave space. So again, being a short person, this is an area that I do not access often. So there's a bunch of stuff in here that I either don't need or I don't use very often. So hopefully I can get this cleaned out here before we have supper. That's completely empty, so I think I can get rid of it. Clay bought me this kitchen torch for Christmas, and it's defective, so we need to drain the butane from it before we send it back, and I keep forgetting that I need to do that. So I should leave this out, make some creme brulee, what a punishment, and then I can get it sent back. All the stuff in this zone is related to the coffee maker, but stuff that we don't need very often. Cleaning tablets, boxes from accessories we've purchased recently, and I think there's extra parts for them in there, so I'm just keeping the boxes. Water filters. And this is our whipped cream canister with the nitrous oxide cartridges for making whipped cream. These knives we picked up for a really steal of a deal at Think Kitchen. And like we currently have a set that's in the knife block and they're getting really dull. We bought a second set when we realized how much we like these knives, and they've just been sitting in the back of the cabinet here. So I think I'm going to swap them out, put the new ones in the knife block, and get rid of the old ones. So after supper yesterday, I went for a walk with my husband, got the little kids to bed, and there just wasn't time for me to get back to doing this decluttering. So I'm back, and I'm going to finish up. I'm going to do the lower cabinets. There's a couple of areas that I'm not showing you just because I very recently went through them, so I don't need to do them again. But before I get to it, I just want to talk about, when I talk about kitchen efficiency and clearing space to make it easier for you to use your kitchen the way it needs to function, what I'm really getting at is the questions that I asked in my previous video about my living room. And I asked you, like, what do you use your living room for? What's its purpose? What do you like to do there? What do you want to do in there? You want to ask yourself those questions about your kitchen as well. So what is your kitchen for? What do you do there? What do you want to do there? And it might seem obvious, well, duh, the kitchen is for cooking. But the kitchen is usually a very multi-purpose room in a house. And if you look at anybody's kitchen counters, that becomes really apparent when you see stacks of paper and toys and I don't know, what else? What do you find on your kitchen counter that really shouldn't be there? But it is, because the kitchen gets used for a lot of things besides preparing food. But its primary purpose is to be a place where you can make food, store your dishes, store your food. And so that's what we want to make space for, so that it's easy to do those things. Eating is something we do on a regular basis, multiple times a day. And so if you're going to do this day in and day out, it should be enjoyable, and you want to make it easy. And so what I want to do is make room in my cupboards so that the tools that I use are easy to access, and it just makes the whole cooking process go so much smoother. If I can find what I need, I know where it is, I know how much of things that I have, and it all functions that much better. So I keep these old yogurt and sour cream containers. They're really useful for giving people leftovers when we host groups for supper. Then if there's leftovers, I can send stuff home with people and I don't need to get the container back from them. And also when I cook ground beef, when I drain the meat, I always just drain it into a big sour cream tub, and then I freeze it and then I throw it in the garbage. It's easy to dispose of and I'm not putting fat down my drain. So I really like saving these containers for that, but I don't need to access them often, so they just stay at the back of this cabinet. These lower cabinets are so irritating for reaching stuff in the back, and Costco actually had these cabinet organizers recently where you install it into the bottom of the cabinet and it pulls out like a drawer. And I was really tempted to buy them for these lower two cabinets beside the stove here, but when I really think about it, the stuff that I need to access in these cabinets, I keep toward the front, and then I just shove stuff in the back that I don't need to access frequently. So I really didn't think I needed to spend an extra $200 on some drawer organizing things that I don't think would actually help my life that much. Now, these are cutting boards that I don't use frequently, and I'm going to get rid of 2 of them because they're really cheap and not nice to cut on. My main boards I keep on the counter, but then these ones, I have one especially for meat, so that if I'm cutting raw meat, I'm not getting meat juices all over the board that I use for vegetables and fruit. So that one's gonna stay, and this one always is just a really nice cutting board. There we go. So on the other side of the stove, that's where I had my glass casserole dishes. And on this side is where I keep my frying pans and other bakeware like muffin tins, cake pans, that kind of stuff. So there's not going to be a lot to get rid of in here, but I know there are a few things that are kind of taking up space that don't need to be here anymore. Such as, this frying pan. We kept it as a backup just in case when we bought the new one, but we don't use it. And then this old pizza pan needs to go away as well because we have a better one now that stays in the pantry. Wow, that shelf really needs a wipe. One really helpful organizing thing that I did in this cabinet recently is I put a 3M hook at the back of the cupboard for this big lid. So it obviously has this metal lip on the edge. And so I take it to the back of the cabinet and I just kind of hook it over the hook at an angle, and it lives back there. And so it's not always in the way because it's for the larger pans, but then the small pan sits inside. So I can't store the lid on the pans. So it works really well just to hook it back in here. And then I put the frying pans in front of it. This silicone mat, I think I'm going to get rid of. I have 2 more, and I only have 2 pans that fit this size of mat. So there's really no need for me to have a 3rd mat. Down here, I keep my baking sheets and my cooling racks. Aforementioned silicone mats. This is parchment paper that I used for baking buns, and I actually appreciate having those brown circles on there because it helps me space the buns out really well. But I haven't baked buns in quite a while, so I think I'm going to get rid of them, and I'll get fresh ones when I need them. Next up is my baking cupboard. We're in here a lot, and there's a lot of stuff shoved at the back that I don't need often, but I do need sometimes. And then all the stuff that we use regularly is toward the front. And it's just good to go through it and see if there's anything that I don't need to keep because we're not using those ingredients or they're kind of past their prime. And we'll just see what we find in here. These Paper Chef muffin wrappers are the best muffin wrappers you can buy. They're made of parchment paper, so you don't lose any of your cupcake or your muffin when you're pulling it off of the paper. So highly, highly recommend these. Don't waste your money on dollar store cheap paper wrappers. Get the parchment ones. A lot of my baking ingredients you'll see are in their own containers, and that just makes baking so much easier and quicker to find what I need and to get at it. So I'm just transferring some full bags of icing sugar and brown sugar into their containers. I find these kinds of ingredients so much easier to deal with when they're in a container rather than dealing with bags and keeping them sealed shut, and it just is such a mess. I do keep a few more baking dishes under this cabinet. So a big springform pan, all my pie plates, and round cake pans. And then my mixing bowls in the front, along with my rolling pin, lid at the side here, a funnel back there. Final step, drawers. Now I pulled both of my utensil drawers out of the cabinets. It's so much easier to organize them when they're not in the cabinet. And then I can see everything at once rather than turning between 2 different locations because this one lives by the stove and this one is under the island. And so I'm just going to go through all of this and get rid of the stuff I don't need. Kind of what decluttering is, right? You may be wondering, why are they stockpiling plastic straws from fast food restaurants? Because Canada is banning plastic straws, and I don't know about you, but nobody in this house likes drinking from a soggy, wet paper straw. So we save them whenever we can get them. One might look at this drawer and go, Kim, you have way too many things in that drawer. You need to get rid of some stuff. That's easy for you to say if you have a bigger kitchen than I do, but I do actually use all of these tools, and this is pretty minimal compared to what I've seen other people have. I don't feel like I need to justify the fact that I bake a lot and I use a lot of kitchen tools, so there we go. I'm just wiping out my cutlery tray. It's always a mystery to me how quickly it can go from being clean to looking like you dumped your vacuum canister into your cutlery drawer. The cutlery that we have is only enough for serving 8, and you'd think that with 8 people in our family, we would run out of cutlery way too quickly, but actually, the dishwasher runs frequently enough that we really don't need more than that. And so we have extra forks here for when we have people over. Forks are really the thing you need more of. And so we do have extra forks, but we only have serving for 8 for the other pieces. And my potato masher doesn't live in my kitchen tool drawer over here because it always tends to jam up. It gets pushed the wrong way and then you can't open the drawer. I just decided to move it over to this side and it works way better. Home stretch, guys. 3 drawers left. This should not take much longer. I keep this container of bread tags and bread bags on the occasion that I bake bread or buns. It's nice to have just a normal bread bag to throw things into. Moving on to my pots and pan drawer, there's nothing to get rid of in here, but I am going to pull everything out and wipe the drawer up since I'm doing that everywhere else. I called this my pots and pans drawer, but it's not a pots and pans drawer. It's a pot drawer. There are no pans here, obviously. And alas, we come to it, the dreaded food storage container drawer. I keep hearing this tip about storing your food storage containers with the lids on. I just can't get behind it. Anybody else? I mean, look at all these Ziploc containers. How would I ever have room in this little kitchen to store all that with the lids on? So then the prevailing advice is, well, if you can't fit it in your kitchen, well, then you have too many food storage containers. Get rid of some. Guys, I use these containers. I don't think that I can get rid of them. This just goes to show tips that are out there. Different things work for different people. So if you're one of those people who can store their food storage containers with the lids on and that makes you happy, go for it. If you don't do it, don't feel like you're doing something wrong. Just figure out a way that works for you so that you can get back to what's really important in your kitchen, making food for people you love. Okay, this is kind of a weird odds and ends bin. I don't think I need to get rid of anything. I just need to organize it a little better. Thank you for joining me while I cleaned out my kitchen and got rid of the stuff that doesn't need to be here. I'm really looking forward to having a more efficient space that I could work in, cook, bake, do all the things that I love to do for the people that I love. And I hope it inspired you to clean out your own kitchen. I know my kitchen's not very big, but this is a lot of stuff that was hiding in the nooks and crannies. So let's hang out some more. Come see what I'm decluttering next time. Hit subscribe so you don't miss anything, and I'll see you next time. Bye.